Today I will take you through a step-by-step approach to garden design. This video is in continuation with the previous one where we discussed 5 basic elements to garden design. If you haven't watched that video yet, please do. I will leave a link in the description. When we consciously design a garden, it becomes a more productive and efficient space. A lot of factors come into play while designing a garden. To bring all these elements and factors together in this video format without any interpersonal or on-ground observation would be an impossible task and very unfair to the process. However, I will take you through the thought process and action points you must undertake to get started on garden design. The 5 elements we'll apply in garden design today are: number 1, setting up your garden goals. The second one would be observing sunlight movement. Third is interaction of water with land. Fourth is wind movement observation. And finally, creating zones and access to the area. For this sample exercise, let's move to my laptop screen. Let's assume this is a 800 square feet garden area, which is 40 by 20 feet rectangular plot in an urban neighborhood. This is the north. There are 2 entrances to this garden, one that is used privately by the family and the other allows workers and outsiders to move in and out. Here is the garden tap and electrical points. There is a cemented veranda with a porch on top that allows movement across to the tap and drainage points. The garden has been leveled with a slight slope leading runoff water into the drainage area. It is surrounded by similar houses except in the north and northeast direction where it opens into a park. Starting with the first element, defining the objective. It is important to create a goal that is challenging yet achievable. Let's say the objective of this garden is to provide 50% organic vegetables and herbs for a 4-person household within a period of 3 to 5 years. It will also serve as a relaxation space and will need to store all garden infrastructure like tools, pots, compost, etc. Now this goal is a smart one. It clearly specifies the requirements. The final goal is measurable. It is relevant to the owners and it is time bound and certainly attainable. Now let's get to the next element, observing interaction of sunlight on this piece of land. If you diligently track the movement of the sun across seasons, you will be able to note down the sunny and the shady spots in your garden. Here, in summers, the entire patch receives sunlight through the day. In afternoons, this patch on the right gets extremely hot because the setting sun burns the area. During evening in summers, the shadow from the boundary wall and the neighboring trees falls on this garden, so this area on the left also receives some shade and it cools down after 5 p.m. The maximum temperature in summers reach 48 degrees Celsius and minimum is in early 30s. In winters, skies are mostly cloudy. Further, due to pollution, this patch gets filtered sunlight. The garden receives about 4 hours of sunlight in winters on these 2 corners, in the morning and in the afternoon. There is absolutely no direct sunlight after 3 p.m. because of the shade from the surrounding buildings. Temperature in winters is a maximum of 25 degrees Celsius and it reaches a minimum of 2 degrees in January nights. Moving to the next element, interaction of water. On any land, water is present in various forms. It could be in form of a fixed water supply connection, rainfall, dew, and humidity in the air. In this garden, there is continuous water supply. During peak summer, humidity levels drop below 25 degrees, so it will need daily watering. In winter, lack of sunlight reduces water evaporation from the soil, and so the watering requirement drops to once a week. Rainy season begins in July and peaks in August. Returning monsoon hits mid-September, which is when this region receives rainfall for a week in a flash flood style. Wind comes in next. Studying windrows for the region gives you a fair idea of the prevailing wind conditions for the entire region. However, it is important for you to see how it works with respect to your garden. Presence of permanent structures like houses and trees and even water bodies can change the way wind behaves in your garden. In this case, while the windrows shows strong winds from the west and northwest, the garden actually gets a strong dose of wind from northeast. Why the difference? This effect is due to the absence of structures like houses or trees in northeast that would have otherwise stopped or slowed down the wind. Now let's superimpose all these observations and delegate zones for activities intended. I like to start with placing the permanent structures first because that helps me cordon off areas not available for planting. For 4 people, a seating area of 6 by 4 feet is good enough. For storage, I feel a 10 by 5 feet space would also serve well. Now, the basic requirement in selecting the spot for storage space and seating area are that it should not be too hot or cold, it should be accessible, it is good to have a good view, and it should also serve multiple purposes. This corner here seems to get maximum shade in summer because of the tall trees in the neighbor's backyard and also the boundary wall, and it also gets winter morning sun. Hence, it is a favorable spot to create storage space as well as the seating area. In summer, growing vines like pumpkin on the roof will create a cooling effect and also give you food. You can also choose a flowering vine instead that adds beauty to this corner and becomes food for the bees. In terms of its placement, this spot is farthest from the entrance, so it doesn't block the view while entering the garden. Further, the wind blowing in from northeast can be allowed to move in and ventilate the space, regulating the temperature and moisture. Now let's move to creating vegetable beds. This area on the right gets maximum heat in summer, but this is also an area that receives no sunlight in winter. Therefore, it would make sense to have garden structures like trellises that would provide support to vegetables like cucumbers and gourds in summer, and additionally provide some shade right behind it to keep the area from getting extremely hot. Another option would be to grow specific heat-tolerant varieties along with flowers to add beauty together with food. In winters, this patch receives no sunlight, so it would function very well for growing leafy greens, herbs and lettuce. Patches on the northwest receive some sunlight in winters, so these can be used in growing root vegetables, brassicas and tomatoes that require more sunlight. Now let's see what we can do with the water situation. In order to keep water from rushing down to the drain and also taking away soil and nutrients with it, a plan to garden intensively will work wonders. Increasing organic matter in the soil with dry leaves and straw will increase water absorption capacity of the soil, and it will also invite a lot of earthworms that will make the soil more fertile. Planting perennial grasses like vetiver and lemongrass along the edges of the garden will avoid soil erosion and also give you herbal produce. Next, to manage strong winds, one would need to add evergreen, strong, hardy bushes like Tecoma stands or Ratrani that will give you flowers as well as fragrance. I will keep away from planting fruiting trees in this direction because strong winds will knock off the fruits. The moment we have all these elements in place, creating access to each zone is but a logical flow. The main pathway will be broader than the rest, and it should lead to the sitting area and the storage area as well. This entire area could be planted with perennial and annual flowers that will add beauty all along the path to the sitting area. This layout is not the only one possible. There are a couple of permutations and combinations that one can create, and hundreds of other factors that would come into play while designing a garden. However, once you have gone through these basic building blocks, you will begin to add one layer after another depending on your observations. So that's it for today. I hope this video helps you in designing your garden. Do please like, share and subscribe, and I will see you soon. Bye.